My name is Michael DeSilvis. This is going to be an update for Friday, September the 20th, 2013. Want to give you an update on Aaron Alexis and give you some key suggestions about his psychological and why we see a pattern is happening with why we see a pattern of this behavior going on with many shooters, stemming back all the way from Combine to the present one that just happened on Monday this week. We're going to talk about that. Well, anyway, Aaron Alexis engraved two messages on his rifle when they recovered it. One was LE or ELF, which means extremely low frequencies. They think that's what that means, which is the same kind of frequency that the military uses to communicate, or submarines use to communicate with military uses to communicate. They use extreme low frequencies is what they think that means. And of course, the week before he was saying he was hearing voices and somebody was like shooting microwaves up at him that vibrated his body. I don't think it was microwaves or anybody doing that. I think he was imagining it because of the drugs that he was on, the psychotropic drugs. See, these drugs are what are called. They're called blockers, and what they do is they go inside the cortex of the brain and they'll block certain parts of the brain, like certain parts of personality, certain parts of emotions and/or behaviors, or all the above, and they're time released. So they give the person usually an 8-hour dosage in the span of 8 hours. So you take it 3 times a day, once in the morning, once in the noon, and once when you go to bed. And it's usually how it works with a lot of these psychotropic drugs. And what they're used for is to block a host of things. Well, the problem is not the video games. Video games, like I played a lot of shoot 'em up games, and I don't take any drugs, and I'm not bragging or tooting my own horn here. But there's a lot of people that don't take drugs and they don't go around shooting up people. But a lot of people that have been doing this stuff were on mind psychotropic, or were on mind controlling drugs, or they have been being controlled by something. And of course, it's really not the drugs. It's really not the video games that's the problem at all. There's violence in there, yes, but there's violence in movies. There's violence in music. There's violence even on regular TV. What are we going to do? Ban it all? But that's not going to solve the problem. The violence stems from the psychotropic drugs. And all psychotropic drugs, when they go into people, affect everybody differently. So it's not one drug's going to affect everybody the same way as it would affect someone else. It'll affect them all totally different. So it's not the video games that's really the problem here. It's taking the drugs while playing video games is what the problem is. Because certain drugs turn off certain sectors of the brain and synapses and block others, and can cause other people to have hallucinations. Just like what Aaron Alexis was having. And just like, the people in a Combine were having, or just like the guy that went and shot up that movie theater in Colorado was having. I could go on and on and on and on. But all these people were on psychotropic drugs of some sort. There was never no one that they got that just shot up a school or anywhere where they weren't taking any drugs. A lot of these people are on some type of mind altering or personality altering drugs, and that's what psychotropics are, psychotropic, however you want to pronounce it. Well, that's what they do. They alter the mind and alter a person's personality, and they alter a person's behavior. And sometimes these drugs have been known in some people, like a very small percentage, like in this fraction of this case of why these shootings have occurred at schools and even in places like with, Jennifer Gifford, in California. When that happened, a number of people were shot at, not just her, but she just happened to be struck, which is a tragedy, because she's a wonderful, she's a nice woman, and she was a senator. I mean, she worked in the place of government, and it was awful that happened to her. But this guy at the hands, he was on psychotropic drugs. It wasn't the video games that did it; it was the drugs, and that's the thing we tend to not focus on. If there weren't drugs in a person who were on the things, these shootings probably, for the most part, would have been averted. The drugs do weird things to people. There are plenty of reports that back this up. And the thing is, we try to help the mind by giving people drugs, when a lot of times there's other therapies that you could do that are less invasive that would probably be more beneficial to that person mentally than putting them on psychotropic in the first place. But the reason why we put them on psychotropic in the first place, like I've said it before, and other people have said this too, so it's not just me saying this, in the field of psychology, we put them on there because a lot of people make money off huge payouts off of companies like, Merck, Pfizer, just to name a few. They make a lot of money stand to make a lot of money in commissions off of that. And so that's why a lot of counselors and psychologists in schools and even in the profession will move to drugs, because they get a commission off of that. Every prescription that they fill, they make money off of it too, as well as, Merck, Pfizer, and C Corp and all that. They make tons of money. And see, they don't want people taking herbal supplements, or they don't want people taking something that would help them, that would be less invasive, that would cure them in most places, because they wouldn't stand to make that huge commission, or they wouldn't get that huge money that these companies do rake in when people take them. That's why they work out a deal with the psychologists, psychiatrists, or clinical psychologists and counselors to put people on these drugs, because they make money. They get paid out too. The person who you see gets money. Plus, all these other companies make a lot of money off of it too. I mean, this is like a billion, almost $100 billion industry a year. It could be near $1 trillion. Probably in another 10 years, it will be $1 trillion industry worldwide. And so, these companies stand to make huge profits. And that's why they're so scared of natural herbs and other remedies that would work just, or maybe even more effective without all the toxic, side effects that these chemical laboratory rat drugs, is what I call them, tend to produce in people. It's not the video games, though. We want to find an excuse. That's what I'm seeing a pattern of in the news and in our government. We want to put the game. We want to go after everything that is evil. But instead, what we're doing is ignoring what the obvious problem is. It's not the games. It's the drugs. It's the medicine. The games are not the one that's the culprit here. Because I played shoot 'em up games, and I would never dare to go downtown and shoot up people, because I know the difference between reality and a simulated reality. And I know the difference because I can differentiate between the two. But when you're on mind-altering drugs, it can make a person think that the simulated reality somehow overlaps to the actual real reality. And that's why these people will go into like schools like Compound and do what they did, movie theaters, and what they did on what happened at Naval Yard in Washington, D.C. this, I think it was Monday or Tuesday this week. All these people had a pattern. They were on psychotropic drugs. Yes, they all played video games, but the video game was not the trigger. It was the medicine while playing the video games. Now, this only affects a small percent of people. It's not all people that play video games are going to go out and start shooting up people. We don't have enough data to prove that, number one. Number two, just because of these 4 or 5 instances that we've seen within the last, decade, or even 10, if we want to go a whole decade, or within the last year, 4 or 5 things, we cannot say that's enough of data to say, when that's only a very small percentage of the world population, that's what's causing it, because that's just an excuse. That's what I call grabbing, just trying to find something to put the blame on as a scapegoat. And we make unnecessary laws and regulations based on, trumped up facts that aren't even facts at all, because we never did really the research to find out what the facts essentially are. And that is so wrong, and that's sloppy science and it's sloppy legislation. We need to find out what the facts are instead of making excuses. The drugs are what we need to look into. A lot of these drugs have been tested before they go out to market. A lot of these drugs have been in clinical trials. But there's a lot of drugs that have been pushed out to market that I know for a fact that have not gone through full, extensive evaluations as much as they need to. And they've been pushed out prematurely. And this may be the problem why we're having these shootings. and why we're having people committing suicide at an alarming rate, and why we have people killing themselves. Because it's the drugs. It's not the video games. Can violent behavior condition people? Yes. But is it video games that do that? We don't really know. I don't think so. I think it stems far more deeper than a video game. It's not the video game. It's something more deeper than that. It has something to do with the person's psyche and psychosis. That's what it has a lot to do with. It's not the games. And I don't say that to defend them. I'm just saying that the truth here. We don't have the facts. People will disagree, but there's not enough information. 5 things that happened this year, all these people were on psychotropic drugs. Or they were on some other mind-controlling situation. That's been proven. Okay, so we can't say the games did this. However, in this 1/2%, or this one small percent, it was the combination that triggered these events. But we can't say the games were the main cause, because I don't believe that. I believe that if people are on drugs and they're seeing things and their reality is, merging over from the stimulated reality to the real reality because of the drugs that they're on, I believe that's the main cause, not the game itself. Because the drugs can do that. And that's what we all need to look into. Because that's why a lot of people are shooting, and why they're killing people, and why they're killing their families, or why they're going in and, shooting people in the bed. It's not the video games. And why they're going up and shooting in downtown and all. Because all these people are on psychotropic drugs. It's not the games doing it. It's the drugs themselves. And that's really the truth. A lot of times we want to romanticize this and excuse it, but we just really need to stop BSing and really look at the facts here, folks. Because it is BS. The drugs are what are killing many people. Military and veteran hospitals they just had on the news the other night. They come home, they did service in the war. They come home, they're on so much medication that these people die because they're taking too much medication. And I don't know how these doctors can have a conscience and just do this. But the doctors are prescribing way too much meds to these patients when they don't even need half the meds they're on. So, that was just proven last night on Channel 6 and 12. They had it on TV. Research it. Go online. Look it up. I've researched this. That's why, I looked at a lot of stuff, and this is what I pulled from it. So the thing is, I'm not the person you should go after, because I'm not the one that's just saying this. A lot of people are. And a lot of people have been saying this before I even said it today. And more people will say it, because the problem here is the drugs, not the games. Can people be stimulated or preconditioned? Yes. But we don't have enough data to say, in fact, without a doubt, just because we had 5 or 6 shootings this year, that's because of video games. That's just not enough data. I think it's something more deeper than that. It's not the games themselves. It's something deeper. It's the medication that these people are on. Because it's only affecting a fraction of the population. And if some people can be in their psychic, can have a psychosis where it does overlap with the real reality. Because the medicine triggers and blocks things and causes things like that to happen in some people where it doesn't happen in other people that are on psychotropic drugs, where it does in others. And, we just don't know because everybody's affected differently by these drugs that they're on. And that's really the truth, folks. So, think about this stuff. But that's what I wanted to say about Aaron Alexis. Because I'm sure that man, he had problems because I think that they had him on too much medication. I think they had him on the wrong type. And I think, they should have listened to him when he was talking to them before it led up to this. He should have looked at the signs, the behavior patterns, the problems that he was having before this point. Because it's not the games. It's something more deeper. It's probably stems from the medication that he was on. And that's really the truth. Anyways, Michael DeSilvis, my take on Aaron Alexis. And let me know what you think in the comment section down below. Please subscribe. I love you. I love America. And I salute all of you. Do the right thing. Be honest. to yourself and to your family and to the government, and tell on the people that are not being honest. I'll see you later.